So, Trey, look, this movie was phenomenal. Honestly, when it comes to coming of age movies, those are usually the films that I fall in love with the most. And I feel this movie is a perfect marriage of like the spectacular now with Place Beyond the Pines.
Love it. Love those films.
And I wanted to ask you, what was your process like in creating Waves?
Yeah, it was a lot, man. It was aspects of it had been brewing for a very, very long time. And there's a lot of personal stuff in it, a lot of autobiography between myself, between loved ones, things we've gone through. And it was kind of, I'd say, what really clicked it all into place and the writing really coming together eventually was getting on the other side of some things, having some perspective, but also at that point, like starting in this deeply personal place and going outside of myself as well, you know, like meeting Kel on my last movie and collaborating with him, and just pushing that and letting that grow. I don't know, man. It's been one of the best things of my life. It's been amazing.
Like I'm telling you, like, and the one thing that I have to bring up, and you knew I have to bring it up, is the garage scene.
Yep.
That scene, I did not see it coming because it's not an easy choice for a director to make.
Yeah.
You know, and it absolutely is, because it's one thing, it was the perfect decision to make, but I can only imagine, because it's easy to say that now when you have the audience telling you.
Yes.
It's a completely different thing from a director's perspective where you're filming it and it's your gut reaction.
Yep.
How did you go about doing that scene? Because you were building up this suspense, whether it was in the car or what have you, it was constantly building and building, and I was thinking, when is the climax going to come?
Yeah.
And I was not expecting it to come in that garage scene. Did you ever debate whether or not that scene was going to be in the movie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was like it's the pinnacle moment, you know what I mean? And if that scene's not handled right, the whole movie falls apart. So it was intense, man, and we felt a lot of pressure with that. And shockingly, it was the hardest thing to shoot. It was the hardest thing to shoot. We went way, way over schedule, almost lost our minds. Kel and Lex they didn't want to stop until it was as honest as it could be, like pushing it to the furthest point, because what we really talked about a lot too is like trying to understand how a relationship built on love can fall apart in such a sad way, you know, and lead to that domestic situation, which I still have images ingrained in my head from seeing things between my parents as a kid and wanting to try to understand that, but make it really, really honest and painfully honest. And they wouldn't stop until we got there. And it was really, really, really hard. Yeah.
And one of the things that I noticed was that, because that scene, if it's not done correctly, you could run the risk of it coming out completely like a cliche.
Absolutely.
And you found a way to still give Ty humanity, where even after it was done, like you feel love for this character even after doing such a tragic thing. And we don't want to spoil it, of course, but he does that he's a part of that event.
Yeah.
And he's still humanized. How are you able to still keep that human element?
Well, I think what my theory on it is that we understand how it gets to that point, and we understand the human being that gets to that point and the relationship that gets to that point. You know what I mean? And it's the biggest mistake of his life. But he is a human being. He's complex. There's good and bad inside that. And I think it's about what we tried to do is use empathy to understand that, and to use filmmaking tools to put you in that perspective as much as possible, to really understand how a human being in a relationship can come to that point. And we just tried to do it honestly without judging and understanding. So my theory is that that's why, you know what I mean? And that's what Kel and I talked about so much too, you know, because like if it became a cliche, it would be a disservice. It would be terrible. So like we felt a lot of responsibility and to get it there, man. Yeah.
You really did nail it. Honestly,
Thank you.
you really did.
Thank you.
And I have to ask you, because I have to ask the source,
Of course.
specifically.
Of course.
Because after I watched the movie, I sat down last night thinking of the questions to ask you, and even going to bed, the one thing that stayed on my mind was the character of Ty.
Yeah.
You know, like
Absolutely.
I genuinely fell in love with that character.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, in your mind, do you think Does he eventually find peace?
I like to leave it to where you can take what you want. I like that you kept thinking about it. I think what's happening in those last scenes of the movie, without spoiling anything, for me says a lot. With the actions of what he's doing right there. I don't want to say it, but like, for me, he's on the journey and in that direction that you're talking about.
Perfect, because it stuck with me. It was the thing where I'm like, I wonder how this fictional character is gonna be, if he's gonna be all right.
That's the dream, though, to keep it with you, man.
Oh, and it really, and I think the audiences are gonna have that reaction afterwards. And another question I wanted to ask is that this is again another A24 film, and it's funny because anytime my friends and I see an A24 trailer and the logo pops up, we immediately like, yeah, we gotta watch it.
I love it.
Because there's A24 feels like it's already built up a reputation of giving you unique and creative films that usually traditional studios won't give you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really find that fascinating, and I think it's very liberating. So I wanted to ask you, as a director working for A24, how do you feel more liberated working?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I made the exact movie I wanted to make, and felt supported. And this is, as we've been talking about, there's a lot in this movie, and it's a risky movie, and it's bold and doing a lot of things. And I'm just so happy I got to the other side of it with the exact zero regrets, like the exact movie I wanted to make, and had their support on that. Like making anything, there's stressful times, especially when more money's involved, and like you got to talk through everything and all be on the same page. But at the end, man, yeah, I'm just really, really proud to get to keep working with them and for them to support me. It's huge.
No, I mean, because it does feel very unique, and I feel like you just, in a different studio, this film probably wouldn't have been made.
No, and I think this is the kind of movie, the spirit of what it is, like, could get destroyed. In the wrong studio environment and the wrong voices and everything, it just gets watered down and doesn't become what it is anymore, So I just feel very, very blessed that I connected with them on my first movie, and we still have this relationship.
And I know in a previous interview you said that this is probably your most beloved film that you've made. It's this one. Do you kind of have a vision of what your next project's going to be, or do you let that kind of just come to you? Because I know you were kind of thinking about this movie for a while.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's the first time this movie does feel like a bit of a culmination, and it was always in the back of the head. And this is the first time I have zero idea. Like, I'm a blank slate now. I put it all into this movie. I'm very proud of the movie, and I have no idea what's next. I just need to take some time, live some life, and figure it out.
And what about the film possibly getting Oscar buzz? How does it, as a director, does it feel to have like your film being talked about as a potential nominee?
It's amazing. Ultimately, though, man, like, you can't. I don't know. It's humbling, but you can't control any of that, and it's not. You're just like in it doing the movie, and doing your thing. So I just hope people show up. I hope it pushes people to see the movie, because this is a unique movie, and the kind of movie I want to see in theaters too. And so I just hope people show up, and it's more of an incentive to get out there and see the movie.
Well, again, Trey, it was an absolute pleasure, and again, I can't say enough about this movie. I absolutely loved it. I think audiences are gonna just love it.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking. Yeah, thank you, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man.